Hi, I'm Rita Wilkins, also known as the Downsizing Designer. So if you are in your 60s and you might be thinking about downsizing or decluttering, maybe you're moving to a smaller home or you're preparing your home for aging in place and getting your home and your life in order just in case something happens. So, or maybe you just want a different kind of lifestyle. You might be tired of that big property and the big house and all that stuff, as well as, you're just tired of all the maintenance and all the upkeep and that expense. So maybe you just want a simpler life so you can enjoy it more at this particular stage of your life. So whatever the reason that you might be thinking about downsizing or decluttering, I've compiled a comprehensive list of don'ts and do's that will help you avoid those common mistakes that people make when they're downsizing and decluttering. And while making the task of downsizing more effective and allow you to achieve your goal in a much faster amount of time. So first I'm going to talk about the don'ts. So don't fall into these traps. And the very first one is your kids might want it. You've probably heard this before. You've probably said it yourself. I know I certainly did. Most of the time, we're just guessing that they might want some of our stuff, and so we hold on to it. And then only to be told, Mom, I don't want that stuff. I don't have the space. I don't want it. I don't have room for it, or I just don't even like it. So as much as that might hurt, it is a reality of our age that our kids may not want our stuff. So one of the traps is that we fall into is that our kids might want it. So to avoid this trap, just ask them outright, do you want this or don't you? And if they say no, just accept that as a no. So if they say yes, tell them that you're downsizing and you're decluttering, and give them a date and a time to actually pick it up and get it out of your house. And this is oftentimes hard for us because, we have big houses, we have basements, garages, and so forth, and they might not, and they'll say, well, I'll get it someday. If you're moving and if you're downsizing, you're not going to have room either. So they do need to figure out how and where to put it. So this goes for anything that they might want. So whether it's furniture or artwork or rugs, any of that, if they say no, they don't want it, then what that does is that frees you up to let it go. And it frees you up of that guilt, because sometimes we feel guilty that, maybe it was grandma's piece and of course they want it, or something that you thought for sure they would want it. But if they don't, then just give it up and let it go. So don't fall into this trap either, that you might need it someday. So we've all said this, and it's easy to fall into this trap because if you want to downsize and declutter, there's no way that you can take it all with you. So you really need to get good at making tough decisions. And very honestly, the more decisions you make about downsizing, decluttering, the easier it gets. And the third trap that, not to fall into is that you paid a lot for it. So we've all been guilty of paying way too much for something and then not using it. And it's only natural to feel guilty about the money that you spent, wasted maybe. And it could be that treadmill that's still sitting in the basement that you promised yourself you were going to use every week. It's still sitting there. It could be that expensive handbag or those expensive shoes that you rarely use. So if you don't use it, if you don't want it, try to let go of that guilt and just let the piece itself go and get rid of it so you can actually downsize. Another trap that we fall into is don't wait to declutter. So do it now. Even if you aren't moving just now, and maybe even moving for a couple of years, decluttering is a process. It does take time, so enjoy that process. And depending on how much stuff you have, it can take several months. And for me, it took actually a whole year to declutter. So if you start now, you'll be way ahead of the game, and then you'll just have it done. And if you choose not to move, so if you say, well, now we've decided to age in place, the way that your home will look, the way you're going to feel about it is going to be so much lighter. So when you declutter now, sooner than later, it's going to give you the freedom to live that simpler life with less right away. And then the fourth or fifth trap that we fall into is we overvalue our stuff. So one of the don'ts is don't overvalue the things that you have. And that's a natural tendency to believe that our things are worth far more than they really are. Of course, so many baby boomers, we've dumped a lot of stuff into the market, and much of our stuff is virtually worthless right now. And that's hard to even say it, but it's true. So this mindset of overvaluing your stuff can really slow you up when you're downsizing and decluttering. And the reality is that some of the china, the crystal, the silver, all those things that we purchased or we were given in our lifetime, they actually have very little or no value because the market is glutted with it right now, as is our brown furniture, the oriental rugs, and the decorative accessories. I actually hate to say this to people because it kind of is offensive, but I think it's also part of my responsibility to kind of give you a reality check. So be selective about the pieces that you do keep, and be real about the actual worth of the ones that you give away. It's not easy to accept this reality, but if you are serious about downsizing and decluttering, you need to let it go and then just move on. So now I'm going to talk about the do's. So this is the don'ts and do's of downsizing in your 60s. So the do's, do dive into the process. So when you see downsizing and decluttering as an opportunity to start a whole new chapter, it gets exciting. So when you approach this process as an adventure, to start fresh, to start new, downsizing and decluttering can actually be fun. And when you start to visualize how much easier your life is going to be once you have less stuff, it'll help you make quicker decisions. So then you can accomplish your goal more efficiently and more effectively. And the second thing to do and to dive into is to plan first, to have a roadmap where you can see a beginning, a middle, and an end. So when you have a vision, a plan, and a timeline for what you want your life to look like after you've downsized and decluttered, it'll help you focus and stay on track during the whole process, and it'll help you stay motivated, because for sure during the middle, that messy middle as it's called, you'll get discouraged and you'll want to quit, but just having that vision will keep it alive for you. Another do to dive into, if you're downsizing in your 60s, is do find a method and a schedule that works for you. So we're all busy, and probably like anything else, when you find something that really works for you, it may not work for someone else, but it works for you, well, then use that particular method. And while there's numerous decluttering methods, it's well worth that time to experiment with which ones work for you and for your schedule. So I do have an online course on my website. It's designservicesltd.com. And there's 8 decluttering methods that are the ones that I have practiced many times myself, and I know that they work. And of course, I have my favorites. You've probably heard me talk about it, but one is that burst method, where I might give myself either 10 minutes or 50 minutes and see what I can get done in that time frame. I don't know why, it's just like a game I play with myself, but it really works. So if you want to check out the 8 decluttering methods, it's on my website. And you'll likely gravitate to one or two methods. There's no one method that works, but one or two that really work for you. And once you find it, keep using that method, and you'll be amazed at how quickly you can progress through the downsizing and decluttering process. Another do is to be very selective about what you take with you. So for sure, if you've moved and you end up putting half the stuff in your basement because you took too much, just as you're downsizing, decluttering, just remind yourself that there's only so much space And there's nothing worse than overcrowding your new, smaller space. It kind of defeats the whole purpose of downsizing and decluttering and living that simpler life with less. And the last do is to ask for help. So there's no sense in trying to be Superman or Superwoman during this process, because downsizing and decluttering is definitely a massive undertaking. And a few of you that I see that are on tonight, I know that you are either in the middle of it or you have already just done it. But it's a massive undertaking. And while you might think you can do it by yourself, why not enlist the help of family or friends? Most people are very willing to help, and maybe not for any extended period of time, but even a day or two can certainly lighten the load. So not only does it help you get it done faster, but it also makes the process more manageable and definitely more fun. And you know me, I'm all about having some fun. So these don'ts and do's are strategies that are intended to help you get started and also to keep going. So, and best of all, make sure that you enjoy the journey and enjoy the process. I hope this helps, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.